Hi everyone and welcome to another Super Deluxe Edition unboxing video. Today we're going to take a look at Elvis Costello and the Attractions Armed Forces vinyl box set. Now this box set has been vaguely controversial because A, it's very expensive. It's about £200 for the black vinyl version and it's about £250 if you want the coloured vinyl version. There's the sticker on the front. It says the complete armed forces, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But apart from the high cost of this box set, the other reason why it's stoked a little bit of controversy is because there's no CD version. So it's vinyl or it's nothing. I think there are some digital downloads available, but in terms of physical product, you can only buy a vinyl box set. So this album came out in early 1979. And if there's one thing this set really does, it shows off Barney Bubble's amazing graphic design. Looks fantastic. There's the backing sheet, which tells you what's going on with this box set. So I think it has 9 pieces of vinyl. So it has the album, it has Live at Hollywood High, and it has Europe 79 Live at Pink Pop. So they're the 3 12-inch vinyl records. Then there's 3 10 inches, which are Sketches for Emotional Fascism. So that was the working title of the album. So that's some outtakes and things that didn't make the cut, which we'll have a look at. Riot at the Regent, the infamous Regent gig in Sydney where it all kicked off. And Christmas at the Dominion Theatre at the end of the year in 1978. And then there's 3 7-inch singles as well. So that gives you the 9 bits of vinyl. So you can see here it says the complete armed forces story curated by Elvis Costello. Goes into all the details of what's going on. So that's the back of the box there. And that's the front. It's pretty heavy, as you might imagine, 9 bits of vinyl inside. So as usual, let's take the lid off and have a look. So the inside of the lid has the actual album cover, which is obviously very familiar. And then here is the record itself. Now they've replicated the original, this was just like the original pressing, so it has these flaps that fold out at the back. And then this is the record within. If you take that away, that gives you the design that you see on the front cover there. So that's pretty cool. Obviously it replicates what went on originally. This album came with a free EP, a live 3-track EP, which was from the Hollywood High. That's the labels, replicates the original. So that's the album, that's been remastered that on vinyl. So that's LP number 1. One thing to point out in this box is there's no ribbon or there's nothing to help you get the contents out, which you would probably expect with a £200 box set. So the second album is Live at Hollywood High. So this is the first time this has been released on vinyl apart from the 3 EP tracks, which were given away at the time when the record came out. Now there is a bit of a history with this record. So originally the 3 tracks that came out were Allison, Accidents Will Happen and Watching the Detective. I think they were the 3. And then when this album was reissued, it's been reissued on CD a couple of times, but when Armed Forces came out, particularly the second time in 2002 for the Ryko Demon reissue, 6 additional tracks were added to that CD. Happen to have that CD here. So 6 additional tracks were added to the 3 that were given away originally, giving you a 9-track version of Live at Hollywood High, and it's that 9-track version which forms this vinyl presentation. So that's what we get here. The sleeve, I should actually mention, probably you're waiting for me to mention this, but the sleeves are poly-lined, which is what you want. So this is where you might raise an eyebrow at the idea that this is the complete armed forces. Don't forget that's what it's called, the complete armed forces, because there has been a 20-track version of this gig that's been issued. Back in 2010, Hippo Select, which is an arm of Universal, they put out a CD version, standalone CD, which is 20 tracks. This is 9 tracks. Plus Chemistry Class, which isn't from the same gig at all. So yeah, so there are 11 tracks which have already been released, which don't form part of this box set. So, you know, you could argue, why didn't they make this a double on vinyl? If they're going to purport to offer the complete Armed Forces, I think it's a reasonable question. So if you buy this box set, you haven't really got everything. And if you want everything, you need to track this down. The other thing is, I think, given the expense in this box, there's no special finishes on the jackets. There's no spot varnishing, or there's nothing die cut, or they've redone the original album with all the flaps. That's good, but I feel like maybe they could have done something a bit more with the design. This is the third and final 12-inch album that forms part of this collection. So this is the Pink Pop 79 Festival. This looks like it's been remixed, as have some of the 10 inches, which we'll look at in a minute. So there's the performers on the day: Peter Tosh, Rush, Elvis Costello, Dire Straits, Police. It's a pretty good lineup, average white band. So single vinyl record. There we go. So this live performance dates from June 79. And just to sort of clear up the timelines, Hollywood High was from June 78. So that was actually about 6 months before the Armed Forces album came out. Interestingly, coincidentally, it's exactly a year later, because it's the 4th of June for this concert. It's the 4th of June 78 for that concert. So that's quite an interesting comparison a year on, what's in the set list and how the performance is. So that's it for the 12-inch vinyl records. I should say you do get these 4 postcards, which also came with the original vinyl. But what's next is the 7 inches and the 10-inch vinyl records. The next records come in this folder, so you see this foam strip down the side. So this folder comes out, and slightly weird in a way, because folders you normally expect books and kind of laminates and stickers, whatever, but this folder actually has records in it. A little bit higgledy-piggledy. I took these out, and when you put them back in, it's quite hard to sort of figure out how they're supposed to stay flat, because they all overlap. But anyway, let's start off with the singles. So you get the 3 singles in here. There's 2 singles from the record, which obviously are Oliver's Army and Accidents Will Happen. So these replicate the originals. So Accidents Will Happen have an alternate version of Busybodies on the B-side. If I open this, one thing I would say is these are very heavyweight 7-inch singles, and it's almost ludicrously so. I don't really see the point, to be honest, of a really heavyweight 7-inch single. It's actually quite difficult to pull in and out, such as the thickness of this single. And really, is it going to make any difference being pressed on heavyweight vinyl? So Oliver's Army is here. B-side is Demo of Big Boys. Same kind of thing. It's quite, you know, they're so thick, these singles. And then this Nick Lowe singles on here, American Squirm. You see it's got Costello on the guitar. The reason is that the album version of What's So Funny About Peace, Love and Understanding is the B-side to this single, which is just not credited to Elvis Costello and the Attractions at all, but it is them on the B-side. Nick Lowe, of course, produced the record. Same thing, very heavy. Of course, these aren't 180 grams, because 180 grams is a 12-inch record, so it's not correct to describe these as 180 grams, but it's the same thickness as a 180 gram vinyl record, but it's just cut down to 7-inch. So they're the 3 7-inch singles, and then what we're left with is a trio of 10 inches. So the first one is a selection called Riot at the Regent. Now this is when it all went pear-shaped in Sydney, and they wouldn't come back and play an encore, and everyone started trashing the place. That's what the Riot bit refers to, if you're not familiar with the story. These 10 inches aren't as heavy as the 7 inches, which is a bit strange. So they haven't kept the really heavyweight. Well, it doesn't feel like it anyway. So there's a selection here. So these are like EPs really, so it's 6 tracks, but you can see the artwork refers to, you can actually read about what happened. Again, these look like they've been remixed from the original tapes. And this is an interesting one here, because this isn't a live EP. For a start, it's called Sketches for Emotional Fascism. Now, that Emotional Fascism was the working title for the album, so there's lots of references to that all over the place. And it says AKA Armed Forces at the bottom. But what this gathers up are the studio outtakes and additional tracks, session tracks that didn't make the album. that were originally on the Ryko and on the Demon banded version. So going back to this, all the tracks here, like Tiny Steps, Talking in the Dark, Clean Money, Wednesday Week, My Funny Valentine, they're all on here. I have to point out that everything on this 2 CD edition from 2002 is in the box set on vinyl somewhere. So if you were wondering whether there's anything on here that isn't in the box, there isn't. Everything on here is in the box. So that's worth making that very clear. There is actually a track on here that isn't in any of the CD reissues, and that's Crawling to the USA. And that's because that was a bonus track on this year's model and it wasn't put on Armed Forces. But it tells you a bit of the provenance of everything. So Crawling to the USA was actually originally on a soundtrack to this film that Elvis Costello had a bit part in, Americathon. Big Boy's alternate version, Green Shirt demo version. Actually, Green Shirt demo version isn't on any of the CD reissues, so that's something new. But anyway, so this is quite important to have this, because I wasn't sure whether it covered all the ground of the CD reissues, but it does. So that's that. This is Christmas Eve 1978, so this sits halfway between Hollywood High and the Pink Pop Festival in the summer of '79. So that's where this sits in the scheme of things. Again, this is like EP type length, so it's actually only 4 tracks on here. The Angels Want to Wear My Red Shoes, No Dancing, I Stand Accused, and What's So Funny About Peace, Love and Understanding. These are all black vinyl, but as I said at the beginning, there is a coloured vinyl version, which you have to pay an extra 50 quid for. That's that. So that's the end of the vinyl. So all these records sit in this folder, which is obviously continuing the Barney Bubbles design. And the 10 inches go in okay. There's the 3 10 inches. So that kind of worked out okay, but I do question shoving these 7 inches in as well a little bit, because they go in like that. In the end, you get, you get a little bit of a bulging wallet. But anyway, so that's that. So this folder here, it sits on there, sits on that bit there. But underneath that is another folder, which we'll take a look at now. That's the bottom of the box. So the artwork's good, it continues in. You do get this floating bit of foam to make everything fit. So yeah, so another folder that's, maybe they just thought they wanted 2 folders that are the same. But these ones have these little notebooks in where they've artworked them up to have names of titles of the songs in the album. Yeah, so when you pull this out, it's kind of, the first time you get this box set, everything's vacuum packed, which I find slightly bizarre in a £200 deluxe box set. This feels a bit cheap to me, to be honest. Not sure why they needed to do it. They probably didn't want everything moving around in transit, but it's not, it's not the most luxurious packaging I've ever seen. Let's take everything out. So once you take it off, this is just a bit of card that you should probably just chuck away, I guess. Now, these are good, I have to say. These are nicely done. Let's take a look through. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's seven books here. I mean, clearly a lot of work and effort's gone into these, but let's actually have a look at what these are exactly. Starting off here, I mean, obviously the idea is they're supposed to be like paperbacks, but in each one it tells you what it is here. So this is provisional running order and handwritten lyrics for Emotional Fascism, which was, as I say, the original name for the album. So Elvis gives you a little blurb about what it's about at the beginning. So these are just lyrics he's scribbled out. So they've recreated them basically, so that's what that is. So nicely done. So this is obviously Accidents Will Happen and Senior Service. So these are first drafts and work titles for the album. And again, Elvis gives you a bit of blurb at the beginning, a bit of explanation, a bit of context. And a bit like Paul McCartney's box sets, they kind of recreate the booklets, except it's not done quite as well, I don't think. Still a fair amount of attention to detail, it looks good, but Paul McCartney uses different types of paper, he uses embossing, he really goes for it. Not quite up to the same standards. Oliver's Army, Sunday's Best. So these are some notes from Elvis talking about just life on the road really. Some explanations about what happened at gigs and bust-ups and the riot at the Regent and all that kind of stuff. It gives you a good feel for the kind of amount of work they had to put in and the pressure they were under, etc. Some good photos. This is nice. This is a good book, and obviously there's some good design elements that taken from the original. So Armed Forces and Moods for Moderns on that side. This is Elvis Costello's notes, and then they're recreated from 2002. So you see it says there 2002 revised and corrected. So Elvis gives you a little introduction saying, here are my notes, and he explains that they're the same, but he's updated them a little bit and made some corrections. But effectively it's the same notes from this CD in 2002. Obviously presented in quite a nice way. So Goon Squad and Party Girl. This is just images of ticket stubs and some notes here about the 3 12-inch vinyl records. In fact, this has notes about all the vinyl, that explains it. Big Boys and What's So Funny About Peace, Love and Understanding. These are kind of jottings really, early jottings. And finally, Armed Forces, Chemistry Class. These are lyrics. This is a lyric book. All the lyrics, including to the bonus studio cuts. The very last thing you get is this poster here. So all these go back in here. I'm not going to bother. It's not really practical to try and keep that bit of cardboard. So they go back in like that. Here's the empty box. So that folder with the books goes back down there. This folder here with the 10 inches and the 7 inches goes on top. As I say, it doesn't actually sit that flat unless I'm doing something very wrong. I'm going to pop the postcards on top there. 1 12-inch, 2 12 inches Hollywood High, and then finally the album goes at the top and the lid goes on. So in summary, I think this is a good vinyl box set. I think it's very expensive for what you get. There may be 9 bits of vinyl in here, but 3 of them are 7 inches and 3 of them are 10-inch EPs. I think in terms of production values and quality, I don't think it reaches the McCartney sort of Flaming Pie type level. With McCartney sets, you kind of always get the feeling that no, there's been no compromises whatsoever. With this one, you know, the book's vacuum packed, the slightly cumbersome folder for the second batch of vinyl, the fact that there's no ribbon or no easy way to access the content. I think there's a few things that could have been done better. Obviously a big talking point is no CD. Not really sure where I stand on that. I do think it would have been nice to give people a choice, but I think aside from live at the Regent, the Dominion Theatre and the Pink Pop Festival, everything else has already come out on CDs. I do think that they should have probably done it, and I do think they could have brought this in slightly cheaper than they did. But I mean, in terms of the actual presentation and the design and the artwork, I think it looks fabulous. That was the complete Armed Forces, Elvis Costello and the Attractions. Keep holding the music in your hands, and if you have enjoyed the video, why not subscribe to the Super Deluxe Edition YouTube channel for more great physical music unboxed. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.